Hello everybody, I'm Lorenzo Marchessi and I'm here right at the beginning of this video we're about to watch to remind you to subscribe to my channel. It's very helpful if you do, and also please tell your friends, your family members, and share it if you can. Love to hear your comments and feedback, but just want to make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching and we'll see you soon. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Geek Authority Show. I'm your host Lorenzo Marchessi, and this is the show where we interview all kinds of talented and wonderful people in all kinds of industries: actors, writers, directors, producers, cosplayers, musicians, composers, all kinds of things. Today is an extra special edition of the show, and we're going to feature the kind of questions that you may ask when it comes time to looking for a job, the concept of putting together a proper resume, things that you are comfortable with in order to get the career that you're looking for. And today's guest is a wonderful recruiter. He's been doing this for a very, very long time in terms of working with big corporations, dealing with one-on-one resumes. Welcome, please. This is Teja McDaniel. I appreciate your coming, and I think this is going to be a really exciting episode, and I'm going to learn a lot, I know for sure.
Well, thank you very much, Lorenzo. I appreciate being on the show.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's start off with a little bit about yourself. You are a recruiter, and just kind of a little bit of what's a day like in the life of a recruiter?
So I've been in human resources and talent acquisition for over 15 years, and I've done it internationally, had my own recruitment agency in Australia, and I've worked for the likes of Fortune 500, Fortune 20, Big Four, and also for the largest global network in the world, LinkedIn.
Okay, you mentioned doing some recruiting in Australia. As far as the different countries go, is there a difference in job seeking and hunting and resumes, or is it pretty much the same globally?
I think if you have a strong resume, it doesn't really matter where you are. The finer points are so minute that if you don't have a strong resume, it doesn't really matter where you're going to apply.
Okay, so it's kind of worldwide. The kind of the symmetry of the resume will get you the job no matter where you are.
Well, it'll give you the best chance to get a job. You need to definitely fit what the job is. So I've had people who've applied for manager roles that were highly corporate, but the kind of management that they had done was not of the same level. So sometimes people apply to things that are not in their genre.
Okay, so what you're saying is sometimes people are creating a resume but not really representing themselves in terms of what they want to do.
First of all, not telling a resume that really tells their story, but also at the same time applying for things that don't really equate to their level. Or like if I'm in one industry, it doesn't necessarily mean that it can be my background fit all kinds of different industries. But at the same time, I think the good recruiters look for different skill sets that are transitional into other fields of industry. But you just can't apply blindly and expect to land a job.
Okay, let's jump right into resumes.
Sure. So I think, go ahead.
Okay, one of my basic questions that I've always wondered about in terms of being the recruiter, I've seen resumes, or I've been told, and maybe I'm wrong, that resumes should be one page and one page only. But I've seen people with 3 and 4, and what's that about?
So I'm a recruiter that doesn't care if it's 1 page or 2 pages. I think you'll find there are recruiters out there who have their own idiosyncratic opinions about what they want. I think that recruiters also expect people to write resumes, but they don't read resumes the way that they want people to write them. I think that if you have a longer career, then it's expected that you'll have a resume that is a couple of pages. I would not go past 3 pages, because at that point, I think you're delineating from the power of what your resume is. And the most important part is, what have you been doing for the last 10 years?
Okay, I've noticed you've helped me out in terms of my
Mhm.
resume. What information needs to be on there, and then what information do a lot of people put on that is really not necessary in terms of personal or
So, so I think first one really needs to understand, like, what is your brand? To thine own self be true. You need to understand what are the skill sets, the experience, the tools that you bring to the table, and how do you tell that story in the most concise way. I think that people have a tendency to either try to oversell themselves or to tell a story that really doesn't understand where the recruiter's coming from. Most recruiters read resumes at 120 miles an hour. So if you're not telling a story within the first 10, 15 seconds as to a summary as to who you are, they're not going to get it. I've seen resumes that have really long paragraphs. I can tell you most recruiters will skim over that and probably miss a lot of information. And by putting it into a ton of bullet points, once you get past 5 bullet points, they're starting to glaze over and they're rushing through the rest of your resume. So I
is that an
actually,
example of overselling, meaning too much?
yeah, because let's say, again, using the term of a manager, let's say you're a manager at a fast food restaurant. I don't need to know that you open up the door and close the door and that you sweep the tables and the floors every once in a while. I want to know, do you have a hand in the budgeting at all? Are you part of the recruitment process, hiring the staff? Do you have a hand in the payroll? Are you part of the scheduling? Are you part of the training, getting these people to learn how to flip the burgers and make a milkshake? That's more relevant than going into the minutia of everyday stuff. And that's going to be the reason why, oh, well, I need someone who's got some practical experience actually doing training. And you've mentioned that. I need someone who's actually done scheduling and recruitment and maybe had a hand in the payroll and the budgeting.
You know,
Ah, there it is.
and what I'm hearing is it's like the tasks or the duties that you do that actually advance the business,
Yes.
generate more sales, keep the operation moving, that kind of thing. Okay.
I mean, it's great. And you can mention it in the interview that, there's nothing that you won't do for the business. Roll up your sleeves, take out the garbage, step in for someone if they're sick. That's wonderful. But you don't necessarily have to include that in the resume, and particularly when it starts becoming 10 bullet points.
Right. And now, is that the same for somebody who says they only have one job to put on the resume? Is it good to like fill it up, or do you want to keep it just to the basics still?
You still want to be really direct and really understand what are most hiring teams looking for in terms of, what are the responsibilities that you've actually done. The other thing is, have you had any achievements? And don't mix your achievements with your responsibilities, which I've seen where it's like, wait a second, this is actually an achievement, but it's in the responsibilities. Now you're throwing me off, because you have to think, recruiters are reading a lot of resumes. You don't want to throw them off. You don't want to confuse them. You don't want them to look at your resume and get exasperated. Make your resume something that helps them actually read your resume. So break up your responsibilities, 3, maximum 5 bullet points, and your achievements. Every single job out there is either helping a company make money or save money. Even the janitor, by keeping those floors clean, no one's getting hurt, no one's slipping around. In fact, keeping the building clean, less people are getting sick, more people are actually going to work as opposed to being on sick leave. He's saving, or she's saving, that company money. So it's not just the salespeople making money. There's a lot of different roles. Office manager has gone out, gotten different vendors to bring the same supplies to the company, but at a fraction of the cost without delineating the quality. That person's done something great for a company. Those are the kind of things that, one would be looking for in terms of, How much money have you saved?
Is that a bullet point or is that an achievement?
Well, that's an achievement, but you explain it with short bullet points.
Okay.
Did you increase productivity at the company? What percentage? Did you have a KPI if you're a salesperson? Did you hit 100%? Did you hit over 100%? Did you bring in a big deal that was a whale of a deal that was worth millions? For example, I had a client in Australia that over the course of 4 years, I did 99% of their recruitment, and I also went internal and I did all their infrastructure as well. In those 4 years, they grew from 70 employees to over 300. And they also grew from 100 million to nearly 4 billion in annual revenue. And that was a combination of both saving that company money, because I was handling all their recruitment, but also at the same time, I put in people and I also set up functions within the business that made things work better, faster, more productivity, which equaled also more profitability.
Because the company's saving money, because things are more efficient, employees are more efficient.
The left hand knew what the right hand was doing. Before that, managers weren't even having meetings together. So
not a lot of companies can say that.
No, but that's also what my background is to bring to the table.
Right.
How do you tell what you do to bring to the table?
Right. And as far as resumes goes, I've always heard that you should not go back past like 10 years of your history. Where's that? How does that fit in?
Well, when you look for the last 10 years, that's probably the most relevant information. For example, if you've been, I don't know, let's say a computer engineer for the last 8 years, but prior to that, you worked at McDonald's, you did, a newspaper run, delivering newspapers. Those last two experiences, not to sort of say anything negative about them, but they're not relevant to the kind of jobs that you're trying to go for. So they're just sort of space on your resume. So I would just really focus on those last years of being a, computer engineer.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about dates? How relevant are dates like for the job you're currently working at, and then history, past history, as well as things like graduation? Now, I hate to bring up this horrible subject, but from personal experience, I know that there's ageism out there. So years of graduation, that kind of
thing. Well, absolutely. And the thing is that, we talk about racism. We talk about people being treated with inequality. I am highly for diversity and inclusion, and all the studies out there say that when you put together a team that is diverse, you're going to have a team that is better at problem solving and coming up with better ideas because of the diversity of people's backgrounds. But what a lot of people forget about is ageism. That's another one. And I think that companies that don't include individuals that have had more senior experience are really sort of, cutting themselves down in terms of not taking advantage of individuals who they've had a few rodeos. They've seen probably not just good, but a lot of bad as well. And they've hopefully learned from it. And I think that we should try to hire people based on the skill sets and their capability and their attitude, willing to learn, willing to be adaptable, willing to evolve, as opposed to, oh, this person ticks all the boxes. They may not be the right person, because even though if they tick all the boxes, if someone thinks that they are absolute in what they know, that's a red flag as to a problem leading down the road. But
when you say tick the boxes, what do you mean by that?
So when recruiters usually meet with hiring managers, the hiring managers has a list of things that they're looking for. I want someone who, let's say, is a project advisor. Great. Is it a senior project advisor? Is it someone who's entry level? Are you looking at 2 years? Are you looking at someone who with 15 years? Okay, what companies are they maybe coming from? Are there any sort of skill sets that this person particularly has? Any specific projects? Oh, we need someone who can do, tenant refurbishments, or basically like an office fit out, and they've done it for blue chip clients. Oh, well, that narrows my search a lot. So those are the things that as a recruiter, you're looking to tick those boxes. But unlike a lot of recruiters, I don't stop there. I actually, when I interview someone, I want to find out what it is that they're looking for. What's going to make them happy at the end of the day? Because if I put someone into a position, are they going to last? And if I haven't taken the time to really understand what's their motivation and why are they even looking for a job and why do they want this job? Well, maybe I need to evangelize the situation so that they really understand, yes, this is a good fit for you and this is what you're looking for and this is going to be something that you're going to be happy with. But I'll never take a square peg, put it into a round hole, and I'll never tell someone, oh, this really ugly frog is going to turn into a princess if you kiss it, and it winds up being just a really ugly frog. So I handle things.
What an analogy there.
Yeah. So I handle everything with respect, integrity, transparency, and that's also why.
But are you the average recruiter?
No,
you honestly
I'm not.
Okay, I was saying, I've been on a few interviews in my lifetime, and that's been decades. But I find that recently, in the year 2021, that I'm being interviewed by millennials, people 25 years younger than me. And it's kind of intimidating in one sense because it's like, are they looking for people like themselves? Or like you said, are they looking for experience or expertise or the ability to problem solve because I've had, 20 more years experience than them? How do you, and you didn't address the graduation and all that on the resume. Is that a yes?
I would never put down the date as to when you graduated.
Never? Ever?
No, because the first thing recruiters are going to do is, oh, let's do the math. Oh, well, they graduated in this year, so they must be around this old. Well, they probably have no more gas in the tank. So, okay. but the reality is that, and I'm just trying to edit this part, but I'm just trying to think, what were we on? Because there was something really good there that we were just talking about before you mentioned the graduation.
Yeah, the ageism thing with the millennials being the interviewees.
Okay, all right.
The interviewers.
Yeah. So in terms of who's interviewing you, first of all, you need to do your research. Research is very important. If you can get the names of the people that you're going to be interviewing with, Google them, look them up on LinkedIn, see if there's anything that is creating a bridge for you with them, something that you can also make a connection with them on a verbal level. At the same time, do your research about the company. See where you can actually fit into the company and create some value for them. Many people, they go into an interview, they haven't done that. And I actually don't think about, oh, is it a millennial? Is it a Gen X? Is it a baby boomer interviewing me? That does not matter to me, because I'm already looking at it from the standpoint as to, you have a business regardless of how old you are, how long have you been doing this, and I'm the subject matter expert that you need to help you be able to do the things that you need to do in order to make your company better and more successful.
So are you saying, or would you agree or disagree with the fact that you think they're actually sitting there, the millennials doing the interviewing, are actually sitting there going, okay, is this the right candidate for the job? Or are they really thinking, okay, this is an old guy, he's set in his way, he's not gonna, or woman?
Well, but here's the thing. If they're focused on the latter, it's not the company for me. Okay. I mean, you can't look at it as every single job I interview for, I need to get. And I think whether it's the universe or for whatever reason protecting us, sometimes there are jobs that we don't get that we wish we got. But at the end of the day, and we may never even hear about it, it would have turned out to be a terrible move.
Right. And I can see that. But hindsight is always 20/20.
True. Particularly with glasses.
That'd be nice. The other thing is, in terms of a resume, you say you lose your job or whatever, and you're on unemployment or whatever. How do you explain the gaps in different jobs? A lot of people have that because a business closes or they cut their staff. The COVID thing came up and companies closed down. Mm-hmm. How do you, what's the best way? I mean, right now you can actually say, well, COVID closed my company. and people can't hold that against you. But what about gaps?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't go into too much detail as to what the gap is about. You have to understand that these are not friends of yours that you've had over for dinner and they really care about you and so forth. They're basically looking to fill, a job rec that they have. And I think in terms of gaps, if anyone has only had one job and they've had that job for a decade, they are the few and far between, and they're a bit out of touch with what's really going on out there in the world. So it could be an assortment of different things. It could be your company just went through an acquisition, so they're letting go of part of the staff or a whole department or whatever. You came across, something that was a personal inconvenience, and you don't need to give what exactly the reason is. You could be in a situation, hey, it was just not a fit for me, and not go into the details as to it was a toxic environment.
Are they allowed to ask what that personal inconvenience was?
They can ask, but I think that the best answer is that in terms of what the situation was, that I really prefer not to talk about it. And I wish that company all the best.
So kind of a dark cloud, but I'm going to push it over here.
Yeah, because I think that if they
what
can't
about
respect, but I think that if they can't respect that you don't want to talk negatively about a company, then maybe they're also not the company for you.
Oh, see, now that's good to hear. Because you kind of sometimes feel guilty because you're not spilling out your guts. What about somebody like who's really trying to look for work, got this 4-year gap? The question has come up like, well, what have you been doing for these 4 years? How do you answer that? You've been looking for work.
Yeah, but maybe you could say I've had a personal situation happen. It may be that you went back into education. You had a family member that you needed to take care of.
Wow.
Okay. So
that's good.
No, but the reality is that I think that Bruce Arians, who's the head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who just won the Super Bowl, actually told his coaches that if you miss any performances by your kids or any activities with your kids, I'm firing you. Because he understands that when he went through the ranks as a coach, he lost a lot of time with his kids and he never got it back.
Family.
He can't get it back. So I think that particularly as we evolve as businesses and as companies, that yes, being competitive and being profitable is great, but we also need to remember we're human beings and we have lives.
But that again, that's another exception to the rule. That's not the rule.
Well, it's heading in that direction, and hopefully that more and more people will assimilate. So,
right. Okay. So
look, for example, Lorenzo, at this whole thing about remote. There were so many companies that were like, oh, we're never doing remote. If you're not sitting in a chair, you're not working. Well, guess what? That person now he needed to go and be remote in order to keep your operation moving and moving ahead. So we had to adapt.
The company's saving money, right? Because
do my recruitment agency over again in Australia, I would have no offices, no brick and mortar. It would all be, hey, if you need to interview people, I'd rather pay for coffees than for, a brick and mortar.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay, so what about hobbies and interests and all that stuff? Other than like actors who probably get away with it most because they are bikers, they're hikers, they're horseback riders. What on a professional resume do you really need hobbies and interests? Or is that?
I think it's good to have them prepared if you're asked for them in an interview, and that also may say something about the culture of a company, but to have it on your resume is kind of wasted space. I would never put a picture on my resume. I would never include any personal information in regard to children or, my partner, my husband, my wife, my anything, because that has nothing to do with who you are as a professional. So if they're a very accepting company and so forth, fantastic. but I'm not sending out a resume to go across the internet, sharing information about my personal life.
Right. And what about the contact information at the top? What's like minimal and what's a don't do?
So here's the thing. I mean, first of all, you definitely need to have your name. But one of the things that a lot of people do is they put down their street address and the suburb that they live in. And if I'm a recruiter in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm not that familiar with Los Angeles, I'm looking for people who are in LA, not necessarily Northridge, Calabasas, Van Nuys, Irvine, so forth.
So you're saying the metropolis of Los Angeles versus
Put down the metropolis.
Like 500 cities,
Yes,
all around.
it's larger than like New York City. If you're in a plane, you see the city. 3 minutes later, you're in LaGuardia or JFK. Here, it's like, okay, we got another 15 minutes to go once we hit the border. So the thing is that for your resume, have your name, have the largest city that you live the closest to, because that will help people guide towards you, saying like, hey, I'm looking for someone in LA. Hey, it says LA, because they're not going to bother to Google where Torrance is.
But you say Los Angeles metropolis,
Greater Los Angeles area.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Okay. And then after that phone number, then your email address. And this is something too that a lot of people don't do. Give me a title. What are you as a professional? Like, going to thine own self be true. Are you an office manager? Are you a office administrator? What are some of the different titles out there? I've been asked to find a client principal by Hewlett Packard. Well, I was like, client principal, never heard of that. What does that have to do with sales? Well, I looked up our own folks on LinkedIn, and most of them had account manager listed as what their job was. I can find account managers, and that's the generic term for what a client principal is. So if you know that you have a company that has an obscure name, for what you do, change that name or add that different name that's more the generic term in the industry for it. Like I could be, I don't know, the Grand Master of people and talent. Well, what exactly does that mean? Well, if I say I'm the Director of Human Resources and Talent Acquisition for North America, that makes a lot more sense to people.
Grandmaster.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then underneath that, here's the other thing. It goes back to the 10, 15 seconds. Now, I don't know, Lorenzo, if you want to play that game with like the resume, like, here, let me show you a resume. This is the John Doe. So everyone watching this right now, I'm going to say, give you a count off, 10 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, and Lorenzo, you can scroll down. I'm sure that's some Evelyn Wood speed readers. Scrolling down, 3, 2, 1. I probably gave you 15 seconds. Okay, now stop. And I'm going to ask everyone right now, so, what's that person's name? John Doe. Okay. Where do they live? Are they close to Dallas, Texas?
I was just thinking, I was like, I didn't even catch where the person was from. And then I was trying to find out that I saw engineer. And then I'm like, how long? I couldn't find the.
Yeah. So most recruiters, what are they looking for is, okay, I have the contact information. Great. You're close to the city or in the city that I'm looking to hire you. What are you? This resume, I can't tell right off exactly what you are, or how long have you been in this particular role? How long have you been a professional? Who again are you doing it for?
Okay. So what you're saying is there's really nowhere to, it's not even organized in terms of the.
Yeah, and the only things that are really sort of put in bold and showing up in front of your face is the name and professional experience. I would actually have had, and the street address, that's personal information, which right. I've changed for the purpose of this, but it's personal information. No one needs to have it. And if you're going into a face-to-face interview, they'll probably have a hard copy. They'll scribble all over it, and you don't know if it's going into the shredder or into the bin. So now it's like for all the world to find.
Right, and oh, way too
Go ahead.
many bullet points, right?
Way too many bullet points. And the thing is that there's not enough visual breakup to say, oh, this is a new job and what
Oh
exactly
yeah,
was
yeah.
the role in it. Yeah.
I was going to highlight that, and it's like it's the second job. Okay, so way too much. No, you call them speed bumps, I think.
Yeah, there's nothing really put into bold. There's no sort of difference between what is a responsibility, what is an achievement, what was your role. Everything has sort of a very monochromatic look to it. Going to get something at a certain date, I would never put that down because let's say, for example, it said, you know, 1985. Well, that person's doing the math there and saying, well, that was 35 years ago, 36 years ago. Well, this person's got to be like 50 something years old. More equality to actually happen is that we don't discriminate against anything. What have you done? What's your skill sets? What's the experience? What are the tools you bring to the table? And what's your attitude? Are you willing
Okay.
to listen and learn?
All right, we're going to jump into the next segment, which I call screening. Now, by screening, and this is the most common, especially now during the pandemic, even before, screening being you're either getting a call from the recruiter. Rarely do you get the call from the actual hiring manager to do the kind of let's talk about you, let's talk about your resume kind of situation. So in the screening process, basically this is where it's you, your personality, and you're basically selling yourself as yourself. How do you? I mean, obviously you be cordial, you're very polite, and all that, but how do you go into the conversation, keep that confidence, and convincing that you're the right person for the job, while knowing you're probably nervous as heck, not knowing what questions are going to be asked.
So, first of all, I come in, I am having a great day. Okay. Doesn't matter whatever has been going on in my personal life. I'm
Maybe
having a
this is
great
phone.
day.
This is phone
Yeah.
or
Okay.
Zoom.
Okay. I'm having a great day. And even if that interviewer is not having a great day, no one is raining on my birthday cake. And
Okay.
the other thing too is that if it's a cold call, then I'm already going to be going into that segment of my mind as to, okay, so who exactly is this company? What exactly are they looking for as a professional? What exactly are they looking for in terms of experience? What is this recruiter telling me about the company? Because a good recruiter just won't be, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Have you done this? If it's going well, they should also have the capability to say, well, this is why you should be interested in this opportunity. Okay, do they have good benefits? Do they have a good culture? Do they, have a high ranking on Glassdoor? Are they currently in court for doing something very negative?
But this is research prior to the call. You're saying?
Well, if you're getting a cold call from a recruiter, you also want to hear what do they have to offer about the job. Now, if you already know who the client is because this has been set up and you're having a screen with the recruiter or second interview with the
Hiring manager.
hiring team, then you need to do your research. You need to figure out, okay, not just why are they maybe a company that is offering you a job that you can do, but what is it about maybe their company that says, I see some deficits here that I can help them with, and that's part of my leverage as to why they should hire me. Also, are there certain elements within what they do as to, wow, you know what? I can actually congratulate them on having a great score on Glassdoor, and it looked like it was done organically. The other thing is that when you're in an interview, and I'll explain organically, basically organically means that it wasn't a company that had a couple of bad reviews and then decided to ask personnel in their company to write really great reviews, which are usually all fives and not very long in description. Pros, wonderful company to work for, really great management team. I love working here. Cons, really don't have much to say. I can't really imagine if anything is a con. 5 stars. I don't know, red flag. Um, So, but also at the same time, I think it's really important to understand that when you're in an interview, someone asks you a question, answer it as directly as possible. Like
As
I'll go,
opposed to, what do you mean?
well, let's say, for example, Lorenzo, I have a candidate and I ask a very simple question like, so tell me what time is it? I want to know what time it is, but they will tell me the whole history of the clock and I'm still waiting for what time it is.
Right.
So, as much as it's easy to get off on a tangent and get conversational, you want to really sort of see what's the style of that interviewer. Are they having a bad day? Maybe they just got some bad news. You want to stay on point and answer their questions directly. If you don't understand the question, ask them again or reiterate what that question is so that you're answering it as correctly as possible.
Is that a good rule to follow when you're doing an interview and you heard the question but you're not quite sure? Is it good to say like, you're asking me such and such and such and such, just to clarify?
If I understand you correctly, Lorenzo, what you're asking me is ABC.
Right. Okay.
Okay. And that's the other thing too, is that it's okay for you, Lorenzo, you brought up an interesting point. Is it okay if I ask you a question? Because maybe this is a good segment to ask a question that's related, particularly if it's a question that actually highlights something you've done that's related to the question that they asked.
Right. And earlier you had mentioned about, things like benefits. Is it good to always ask about benefits? And at what point do you ask about that if they don't volunteer it?
So, two things. Sometimes you may feel at the end of an interview that they didn't ask you everything that you wanted to share with them. And you can say to them, Lorenzo, I think this will be a fantastic opportunity with this company because when I was working at WT, I was also doing ABC. Really keep it short, but now you've taken that opportunity to increase some of the information that may give you leverage to the job that you want. If it's a job you don't want, I wouldn't waste your time. But the other thing is, to just see if there's anything else that you want to take away, which may be, Lorenzo, I think it's really great that you've called me. I'm just curious. Can you tell me a little bit more about the company? Like, is it a private company? Is it a public company? Is it a startup? Oh, it is. How many people do they have right now? How long have they been in business? Do they have financial backing? Oh, it's an established business. How many people do they have? Are they national? Is it all local? So what are some of the things that
Isn't it your business to ask financial backing though? I mean, wouldn't they think that's a little?
Well, the thing is that if it's a startup, startups, I would say three out of four startups don't last more than 2 years.
Wow. Okay.
So from a statistic level, so if they're off put, like, why are you asking that question? Then from this, wonderful interview that you're having today, people watching can say, well, I understand that 3 out of 4 usually don't last past 2 years. And I want to make sure that this company is financially sound if I'm going to take a step with them.
Wow. Okay. I can in a real world, I can see a recruiter being, or whoever, hiring manager being a little put off by that. But because in their head, they're thinking this is going to go on, it's going to last, blah, 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 I'm sure. But okay, I mean,
you have to understand what's the value that you're bringing to the table. You're not just some, Joe or Jane that they've pulled off the street and they've given a broom and said, start sweeping. You're actually a professional that has, value to offer, but you're not going to go sharing it, with just anyone.
Right.
The more you appreciate and respect yourself as a professional and as an individual first, okay, the more likely that others will do the same, including other professionals.
Right. So are there minimal questions that you should ask every interview? Like basic, 3 or 4, definitely ask this, definitely ask that, definitely.
Well, I've asked the question, how far along is this company along in their process for recruitment?
Oh, you
How
mean how?
long how long are they expecting this process to go? What are the other steps within the process? Which, as a recruiter, I always share that information with candidates so that they know exactly when is the next step in the process and when they should be hearing from me. And I do reach out to them and I don't leave them hanging and I never ghost anyone.
You are the exception, let me tell you. Personally, I've sent out, literally every morning, average 10 to 20 available resumes. And I say available because a lot of them repeat on the job sites and stuff. But I would say less than 1% actually get back with me saying, thank you, but no thank you, or we're considering other candidates. I honestly, my observation, the bigger the company, the more that happens. Like, for example, Disney has sent me, yes, we reviewed your candidacy, we decided to move on, that kind of thing. But no one else,
Yeah,
literally.
but that's automated. That's automated. And the thing is that I think again, you need to understand that just applying for jobs is one strategy. As opposed to the resume that we just looked at, this is a better way to start off your resume because if you have a hiring manager, and I always tell folks, think about that person sitting in an airport 10 minutes before their flight, they're looking at a ton of resumes. How do you give them the information that they need right away within the first 10, 15 seconds? Your name, the location that you're in, okay, and I'm saying the largest city that you live close to, an email address, okay, that isn't like fluffy purple at Gmail. You want something that looks, professional. Your phone number, and I've gotten resumes that the phone number is at the bottom, the contact details are not even on the first page, they're on the third page. Make it easy. It's right at the top. And then a title. What are you professionally? Is there another title that you may be called? Do you have a specialty? Is there an industry that you particularly work in? And then a short paragraph. And I say short, meaning that it's not like, a long paragraph that by your standards you consider short. No, it's like about 3 sentences. And in that short paragraph, I want to know, how long have you been doing this? What exactly have you been doing? For whom have you done it for? And at the same time, how do you do it differently or how do you do it specifically? And you may also want to include other things that you've done. So, for example, I've been in human resources, I've been in talent acquisition, I've managed people for years, I've handled culture, for a long time as well. And when I say, who have I done it for? Well, I can also say Fortune 20, Hewlett Packard. I've done it for Accenture, Big Four. I've done it for the largest social media, professional network in the world, LinkedIn. And who do I operate or how do I do this? I work closely with C-level, and I save companies and I really impact companies because I've made money as well in the millions. And I've also, organically gained 5-star rankings on Glassdoor.
Again, organic. That means
Organic,
real.
real. Okay, I didn't set people up to put on really great reviews in order to hide bad reviews.
Okay. During the screening process and during this whole pandemic, I will relate to you an experience. I believe we talked about this. I went on a physical interview, been through the first stage and then the second stage with the phone, and now I'm on the third stage physical interview. Walked into an office. A pregnant lady was at the reception. No masks. This was very recently here in 2021. Met the two people that I was going to interview with. Both offered their hands out. I rejected. I went in with a mask. I wear double masks, so I'm wearing 2 masks. As I'm doing the interview, I look through the glass of the doorway window into what looks like a meeting room. There's 10 or 12 other people in a conference kind of situation, none wearing masks. So, should I have even, as I think about this, it kind of bothers me. Should I have not even walked in the door when I met the receptionist and said, this is not for me? Or how do you handle in the COVID world now when you're going to the interview?
So
Actually,
that's
no. Actually, because I made just told you that story in the interview process on the phone when you're doing the recruiter. What are you allowed to ask regarding the COVID situation? Let you know. We'll deal with the other thing later.
so again, it's a two-part answer. The first part is that on their responsibility level, if they are doing things that may be considered dangerous, risky, putting the other person's health at risk, then they need to be upfront and say, these are what our protocols are for COVID. If you're going into a face-to-face interview, there's no problem with asking, what is the company's protocols and are they following them in regard to COVID? Now, I can tell you that if you're walking into an office and they don't have any signs up, they don't have any dispensers with
Sanitizers.
sanitizer,
Yeah.
that there's people without masks, it's perfectly viable for you to walk right back out. And the other thing is that it doesn't sound like they're going according to protocols, because they're supposed to be at least 6 feet apart. And if they're having a meeting, well, is that all the people in the office? Because it's been from a third to maybe a maximum of half of what your office capacity is that you can fill your office with. So if you can have 20 people, only 10 people are allowed to be in that office space. Now, I know it's been a challenge in regard to what to believe, who to believe, but just a common courtesy and respect to others, to understand that, hey, I may have a different belief than you, but you know what? I'm going to show that I'm respectful, to you in terms of, it's not like saying, well, we only wear blue or purple and you need to wear green or red. It's a health situation.
Right, and this is the part that bugs me. The science. This is science. This isn't. I forgive people out there, but this is not like a religious thing. This is not a partisan thing or whatever. It's science. It's these people who believed that this was not real, got sick and started telling everyone else, "Hey, this is real. I almost died."
Well,
so this is science.
I can say there's been a different attitude from the East Coast to the West Coast, because the East Coast, everyone, particularly in the cities, is living on top of each other, and they've seen drastic, rampant, infection, while on the West Coast, because most people drive, we've seen less of it. But I can tell you, it has happened. It is, for some people, not, excruciating, and for some people, it's lethal.
Well, during the pandemic, LA, the metro area, was actually leading on the low cases and all this other stuff. And then, partisan and the whole bit opened up, and LA became number one, beating New York in terms of deaths, infections, and all.
Well, because I think that the reality check didn't hit until after it really happened, and far less
events,
far less, and not enough people were actually going by the protocols.
But I'm on the phone interview. Can I say to the interviewers, so do you guys practice COVID? How do I say it? What do I say?
Yeah, well, I would say, okay, so you'd love for me to come, in for an interview. That's meeting.
Wait.
Okay, great.
You're not at that point yet. They haven't invited you for the interview. This is before.
Okay, well, I wouldn't say anything until they're ready to invite me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you know what? Because here's the thing. And I would say for actors as well, you go on 20 auditions. If you pine away for every single audition, you're going to drive yourself crazy. So when you go into an audition, you show the casting directors who you are and what you bring to people in regard to that role. And when you walk out, you move on to the next audition. It's the same thing with interviews. You go in, you show them who you are as a professional. Why should they hire you? What's going to be the impact on their business by having you there? And then you walk out. And if you're having a phone interview, you don't need to give them extra information. You don't need to ask extra information. If they ask you in that phone interview, well, what are you looking for salary-wise? I would tell you, well, you glass door and see between how many you've been doing this and the you're in, what's the going rate?
So
You
is
don't
it
know.
okay to ask what their salary? A lot of people say ask the salary range. Is
Yeah,
that a
yeah, you can give a salary range,
no, no,
but
no?
you
What I'm
also,
saying is they ask the recruiter, what is your salary range for this position? Is that a good question?
in California, you can ask that question, and in California, they're supposed to provide you with an answer, but not everyone knows that.
Really?
So yeah,
Recruiter?
no, a lot of recruiters and even HR professionals don't know that. Um, but that's the other thing too. You can't ask anyone, well, what were you making at your last job, or what are you making at your current job? Can't ask that question. Okay. If someone asks you, so what are you looking to make? You can give them an answer and say, well, this is what my range is. Um, at the same time, you never want to give a number. Your bottom number should never be lower than what your overhead cost is. You can't
Right. And
afford to
here's the
take a
thing.
job that's not going to afford to pay what your bills are.
Both phone interviews and physical interviews, I've been asked this question. What is the minimum you are willing to work for? That's almost every interview.
Well, that's a bit of a red flag for me, okay?
Bad red
Because
flag? Wow.
yeah, a bit of a bad red flag. I mean, if they're saying that, then are they looking to lowball me? So is this going to be a nickel dime situation? Hey, if I rock this out of the park and the company's really doing well, are they going to be miserly and they're not going to say, oh, well, we're going to give you a nice little bonus or we're going to bump you up a bit? Okay. So that may just be a red flag to say, don't know about this company. But in terms of minimum, like I've said it, hey, in order for me to pay my overhead, my bills, and I don't live an extravagant lifestyle, okay, but I also don't want to be uncomfortable, I cannot take anything lower than this. And also at the same time, what are you offering in terms of benefits? Because if you have a really terrible benefits plan, that means more out of pocket for me when it comes to insurance. Do you offer PTO? Well, we don't really offer PTO. Well, that means I can't take a vacation ever. It's good for the mind and the soul, and it makes me actually more productive if I can walk away every once in a while, which means have a real vacation where I'm not in contact with the company during my vacation and still doing work. It's a better place.
Wow. Okay. How do you feel Zoom interviews versus the telephone? I mean, obviously you've got to look nice and all that other stuff, and you could literally be wearing, a bathing suit underneath. No one would know, but the
Well, I'm not getting up.
I'm like, I'm not either.
So,
Okay. What are the protocol Zoom versus telephone?
so in terms of protocol, when I'm being interviewed, I don't care away. When I am interviewing, I mostly do a phone interview first. I'm used to it, but also at the same time, to do a Zoom interview, I think is a great opportunity, not just to hear someone giving answers, but also looking at their kinetics. What's their body language saying? What
You realize
is their
you realize
communication?
people on Zoom are much more nervous though. I've seen people do this, and they're like, versus the phone, which you're nervous as well, but this is like, here I am kind of
Well,
situation.
again, I don't conduct my interviews in the typical way. I actually start my interview off by giving, hey, Lorenzo, thank you so much for, being on this. Are you good at this time, for us to conduct an interview? Yes, fantastic. So while I'm getting my documentation together and your resume, let me tell you a little bit about who the heck is the person calling you from WT. And then I give a quick synopsis about myself. And I also include the whole thing about I don't paint pretty pictures. So when I get someone on the phone, the first thing I say to them is, are you okay to be, do you have time for this phone call? Yes, great, fantastic, wonderful. Red flag if someone says, yeah, I got 10 minutes. We scheduled for 30 minutes. Okay. But I don't say anything. I'm already going, that's a bit of a red flag. Or if they're in a rush. Then I
Why would
say,
you
well,
say
while
that?
I'm pulling up the documentation, some people have.
Wow.
Some people have taken me with the phone on a tour. I just want to go to somewhere a little bit more quiet. And they've literally taken me to the restroom to do their. That person did not make it past the first phone call. So, and I've had other people rushing around down the elevator, into the car.
On their phone.
If you can't take a call, on their phone, if you can't take a call and be in a quiet space and give your attention, then don't take the call. Okay. But going back to what I do, after I say, look, while I'm pulling up your information, let me tell you a little bit about this crazy person calling from WT. And I tell them, I've been in recruitment for so long. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. And, when we left Australia, moved to, the West Coast, because even though I'm originally from New York City, I wasn't interested in shoveling out my car every winter. I tell them how I treat candidates. I don't appreciate it when recruiters have told me, don't worry, Teja, this will turn into a beautiful princess. And it was just an ugly toad, because I treat every kid with respect, integrity, and transparency. So I'm already telling them, setting up the table as to, I'm not your typical recruiter, and I'm going to treat you differently. And in this way, we can have a more transparent conversation. And even if someone isn't a fit for what I'm looking for, if they're nice, I'll give them some pointers and I'll be direct with them. In terms of your experience, they really want 5 years. You only have 3.5 years. But not just that they're also looking for someone that has this skill set, which you don't have, quite yet. But I think that you're a fantastic person. And I think that maybe in a couple of years, you would be perfect, to work for our company. But can I make some suggestions in regard to your resume? Or let's say, for example, during the course of the interview, they're talking really, really fast and very passionately. And I tell them, look, here's the deal. Slow down. Leaders don't have to rush for anyone.
Followers. That could be nerves, though. That could be nervousness.
Could be nerves, but I give them the opportunity. I don't mark them down, but I give them the opportunity. I say, don't rush. Followers, rush. Take your time. Breathe. I want to hear what you have to say, and I want you to do well in this, interview, and I think that you're doing great. But do they take that information and do they use what I tell them in the interview? Because if they go right back into rushing and talking, so quickly, I also wonder, well, if you're at work and your manager is telling you to do something differently, are you just going to nod and say yes, but keep on doing what you're doing? That's not someone who's really adaptable and they're not really learning.
Wow. Okay. All right. I think we covered a large area of the interview section. Next, in terms of the screening process, let's talk about the actual physical interview. Actually, you made it through the first recruiter, you made it through the hiring manager via phone or Zoom. Now you're physically walking into the building. So let's establish that during COVID-19, there's not the 80% herd immunity yet, and not everyone's gotten vaccinated. So if you walk into a company, no one's wearing masks, that kind of thing, it's okay to say at the moment you walk in or shortly thereafter, sorry, it's not the company for me, and tell them, right?
Yeah, no? Whatever you're comfortable with, you want to make that decision for people and tell them what they need to. But the thing is, if you feel endangered and uncomfortable, then you're perfectly in your right to say, I am uncomfortable with this situation. And I wasn't aware that this is, what your policy is, and leave.
Wow. Okay. So, I didn't know that because I stayed with my masks.
But this is the thing. And I think it's unfair because if a company is really upfront, they would, if anything, they would be telling people, look, we are conducting, in-person interviews, but we have a limited staff that's on present. Everyone is 6 feet distant. Everyone is wearing a mask. And when we conduct this interview, we're not going to shake hands. We're going to stay distant from each other. And it's California, and we're doing it on the back deck. So you're not even going to be in an enclosed space. That if a company I always tell companies this: treatment of your employees does not start on their first day. If you're a company really doing it right, treatment of your employees starts during the interview process. So that means that you're not just treating the people that you eventually hire, but you're treating everyone who's a candidate with respect, with integrity. And I'd also rather have them walk away when you say, look, unfortunately, we're going to pass, saying, wow, I wish I'd gotten a gig with that company. They seemed great.
Right.
But also it's something that you can pat your on the back and say, hey, we follow protocols because we respect even individuals who may not, agree with going on, but that's not for us to say, and we're abiding by the law. Those are laws.
Wow.
Those are the mandates.
Yep. And, nothing's more important than your health. So, or putting it at risk. And then there's your family. You go home from your interview, you catch something, you bring it home. Anyway, okay, let's go. Let's go from the physical standpoint. So I've heard many debates and conversations about this. Obviously, if you're going for an interview, you want to look nice, you want to dress properly, you want to look your best kind of situation. But I've also heard, which is why I'm saying this, that California in particular, they tend to be like casual business wear versus the suit, the vest, the tie, the whole penguin thing. How do you dress for an interview?
I ask. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that.
So, Teja, we'd like to have you come in for an interview. Great. What is the dress code for the company? Is there an expectation as to how one should dress? Because I can either come in a suit, or I can come in, a bit more casually. I never go casual. I always want to look more sort of like clean casual.
You mean like jeans and t-shirt? You go in like business shirt, business slacks, that kind of thing.
Depends, but I'm gonna look well dressed. I'm gonna look like I don't want to come in looking at all like, hey, I just came from the beach, or sloppy at all, or
so you might wear jeans, is what you're saying.
I might wear jeans, particularly if they say, oh, we wear jeans. I might wear jeans. Look, okay. If you were going into an advertising agency with a full suit, even if it's not an interview and you're trying to do business with them, they're going to look at you a little bit cross-eyed because you're overdressed. But really? I ask, yes.
So the standard has changed because, I'm that old that I remember that suits and ties were like required.
Well, I also think that California is different than New York.
Which is why I said that.
Yeah.
Why I said that. Okay.
Because you may be more dressed up, but it also depends on the industry again.
Okay. Here's another issue that comes up a lot that I've talked to other people and I have experienced. You have an appointment, say it's 11 o'clock. Good people, generally, you kind of show up early. I wouldn't say more than, 30 minutes early, if even less. But okay, you get there 15 minutes early. You're greeted, you sign in, whatever you're doing. Oh, here, have a seat, and they'll be waiting for you. What is a good waiting time? I have had 11 o'clock appointment and waited almost 45, 50 minutes before someone saw me.
So again, as much as you're being interviewed, you're also interviewing the company. So this is one of the things that you're looking at. I showed up early. Okay. Is there any documentation I need to fill out? While I'm sitting here, I'm looking, does the receptionist seem to be a nice person? Okay, look, they're the face of the company. They're the first person that you see. If you have a really nasty receptionist, you're not really starting off with a good foot with anyone that walks through the door. Right. And then, beyond that, if I see people walking around and communicating, how are they communicating with each other? Do they seem like they're nice and friendly? Are they laughing? Do they seem really uptight? Are they argumentative? Does someone look like they're running around like a headless chook, as they say in Australia? Headless chicken. These are the things that you're utilizing during those 15 minutes. Now, if they start promptly, or if they say, your interviewer will be with you shortly, they're just trying to take care of something. All right. They're giving an explanation. Stuff happens. But if I'm sitting around 30, 40 minutes, I don't know if I'm sticking around that long.
Right.
Okay. I've had it happen. I had it happen early on in Australia when I first moved there. I had a company. I came for an interview. I was early. After the time was supposed to start, I probably waited there another 40 minutes. The person called me into the room. I walked in, didn't apologize, no explanation, no sort of consideration as to my time, didn't offer me water. No one offered me water in all that time. And I sat there, and within the first couple of questions, they basically said, "So what are you looking to make?" And I looked at them and I said, "Well, this is what I'm looking to make." "Oh, that's a lot. None of our first year make that, kind of money." So then I stood up, offered my hand. I said, "I want to thank you very much for, making the time to see me." And he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, you just told me that you can't afford me." Oh. I said, "Well, and I don't want to waste either your time or my time, but I greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much and have a great day."
And you walked out.
Yeah.
Wow. Good for you. Yay. Okay. So in the situation like that, so it's, say you're still sitting out there. Is there a time that you should say, okay, I've been waiting long enough? Or should you wait till your interviewee shows up an hour later and then say that? Or what's
Well, I think it's like any relationship.
Uh-oh.
Unless it's a Hollywood relationship, which is only in the movies or in the television series, okay, if it starts off bad, more than likely it's only going to go south from there. And if they can't be appreciative of your time, like I can understand the interviewer is coming in, it's LA, they got stuck in traffic. Are you good to stay longer? Do you want to reschedule? I'm really sorry about this.
They're communicating with you. They're
communicating.
They're acknowledging that you're waiting and things come up. Yeah, that's okay.
If there's an expectation that, oh, you should be able to wait, I'm sorry. And also, for an individual at my level and what I know I can bring to the table and can impact a company with, if I start offering up some of these ideas, are you going to be as irresponsible? Well, what's the word? Are you going to be as negligent in being able to absorb what I have to offer? Because quite frankly, you didn't hire me just to be told what to do. If I'm a subject matter expert, you hired me basically to show you how you need to do certain things. And if you couldn't bother to interview me on time and not treat me with respect, then I'm probably not going to have much leverage here in the company to really make the changes I need to make.
And I get that, but at what point, say crickets, all you hear is crickets while you're waiting. So is the 30-minute mark enough? 45-minute mark enough?
No, for me, quite honestly, probably at 15 minutes, I would have already gone over to the receptionist and said, is there any kind of delay that I should be aware of? Okay. If they're not really giving me an answer, I don't know, I'll check. Great. Thank you so much. Like, always nice and friendly. Again, no one's going to rain on your parade. You're having a wonderful day. And then if they come back and say he should or she should be with you shortly, and then it's another 20 minutes, then I would probably get up and say, I'm really sorry, but I've got a bit of a tight schedule. And, if they are still interested, they can give me a call. And I'd leave.
Nice. God, I wish I knew this when. Okay, so now you're in the interview. You're interviewing with the hiring manager physically across from each other. At what point in the conversation do you bring up things like benefits, say COVID protocol, that kind of thing?
Well, the COVID protocol would have been something already even before I stepped into the building. So I would have already addressed what is the COVID protocol for the company prior to ever accepting walking into the building. The other thing in regard to benefits is that if I wasn't able to find it in my own research on the company, then if they're asking a lot of questions, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? that's a lot of like, okay, you're trying to see if I can do the job and if I fit what your job is. But I also need to know, does your job fit me? So, depending on the level you are, who am I reporting to? Is that individual open to me offering, different things that can really help the business? Are they, accepting of that? And the other thing is, why should I be wanting to work for your company?
Right. And to clarify, when you say level, you mean like entry level position, manager, director, executive, that
Yes.
kind of thing. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
So if I'm executive level, then am I going to be part of the strategy for the business?
okay.
Because like as an HR and talent acquisition person, we deal with the most vital element of any business, people. So if
Right.
you do have a good talent acquisition strategy, if your HR and is only worried about not getting sued and not really trying to help the life and existence of the people within your company, which may be, their career, their career growth, their their interaction with other employees, then you're really missing the boat in regard to how your company could be better. And it
How about
all relates to productivity and profitability.
how do you gauge a transparency of a company when you're in the physical interview? Is there any key
Uh,
questions or things you could ask or no?
well, I think in terms of looking at responses, again, having the visual of someone, you can see what their body language is. Do they seem like,
Part of the reason I ask is what,
mhm,
again, most recent interview I had, both people that interviewed me were pounding on the, not hounding, more than twice. Each of them brought up the how do you deal with the situation with a negative employee or a difficult employee, or because it was I was interviewing for a management position, so
mhm,
kind of situation. But I really got the sense that they have a problems in the company,
yeah.
and they're kind of making sure I know how to deal with that. I'm like, how do you transpose that to like find out what the real scoop is?
Well, I would say, so, you've seen it and you can say, Jane, I see that you've been with the company now for 5 years and that you started off at this level. What would you say is sort of an average day for an employee? What are some of the things that you've really enjoyed working here at this company?
Oh,
You
I'm
know,
asking the interviewee. Oh,
yeah, like what have you enjoyed about this company? What's been the most rewarding aspect of being with this company?
are
You
you going to
know,
flip it now and then say, how about the most challenging?
well, you
No.
can. I mean, you can say, or what's been the most rewarding? What's been the most challenging? If my role is a why did the other person, were there sort of expectations that weren't met?
Okay.
What's the average day? What does an average day look like for that person? Well, from one day to another, it's always changing. And say, I get that, but what are the sort of key elements that this role is being measured by? What are the expectations that you're looking for this person to succeed at doing? And already you can sort of say, are those realistic? you know and I want to say, well, in order to get those things in, the person who I'm reporting to, which is you, Jane, what's your buy-in? Are you someone who's very collaborative? Because I'm a collaborative individual. It's not my way or the highway. I definitely believe that two minds are greater than one in order to problem solve. But are you going to be someone who's going to be working with me?
I like that. Very nice. Okay, here's another aspect of an interview: interviewing one on one. In this case, I just mentioned two on one. What about I've sat in interviews where there's like five people. How is that? How do you deal with the number one, the intimidation, and then sometimes it ends up being like a rapid fire, or you get that one interviewer that's sitting there kind of like doesn't say a word. How do you deal with the multiple panel?
Well, first of all, I tell them, good thing this isn't a ping pong match. Um,
What do you mean? Why?
5-1.
Oh,
So, and then
okay.
and
Because I
then
would lose.
and And then the next thing is you will quickly see who's the person kind of running the meeting. And you'll also see who's more the person who's more analyzing what's going on. So you may have the CEO, for example, or the top leadership person who's available running the meeting, but the person who's actually closest working to the role may be the other person who's talking as well, or not talking until the end. So I always find it's always good to make sure that you're just not having a one-on-one conversation with a total of 5 other people in the room besides yourself, and that you're making eye contact and answering to all of them.
Okay.
So the person in
Whether
the front,
they talk to you or not, you want to look at
yeah.
them. Okay.
So if the person in the front is the, CEO and he's asking the question, I may start to answer it and then over to someone as I continue to answer it, and then to the other one else as I finish it.
Okay. Makes sense. All right. The most feared question at every physical interview. Teja, tell me what your worst qualities are or areas that you need to improve.
I think sometimes I could be impatient for myself that are not the goals that you say to yourself, oh yeah, that's feasible, you should be able to hit those. I try to actually set goals that are almost beyond feasibly within reach, and that's always driven me further. And I think that I don't see things moving fast enough, then I first look at it and say, is that because of me? Or is something else not happening here within the system in order to move things forward? But I'm a communicator. I address things. I am a collaborator. I understand other people have other things that they need to do as well. But I also look at it as, what is the value of what I'm trying to deliver? If it's going to be a very huge impact, a very big game changer for the business, then maybe that needs a little bit more priority and more skin in the game from the other individuals that are involved.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to put that on my phone, and every time I go to an interview, I'm going to listen to that answer, because I guarantee you 9 out of 10 times I'm always asked that question, and I'm sure a lot of people are. And you really kind of fumble, like, do I really want to tell you that, I bite my nails or do whatever, but
well, I look at, honestly, what is it that I probably struggle the most with? And that is that I'm able to do things very quickly in a quality way and get them out and get them done. And that's why in short amount of time, I'm able to put in infrastructure, to put in SOPs, to put in P&Ps. And I've also done it several times already. So it's not like a first timer for me, but if it is, I actually embrace the fact as to, oh, here's something I don't know, opportunity to learn something new. But often we're not the only people delivering something, and we also count on other individuals. And that situation can sometimes become frustrating. And I know with my own sort of sense of urgency and wanting to get things done that I can be impatient, particularly with myself.
right.
But
You're implying a lot of teamwork, a lot of working together and all that. So
Exactly.
Okay. Second worst question at an interview, I believe, falls under there.
Great. Love it.
here's I get almost 100% of the time is, of course, so Teja, what would you bring to the company? What can you offer our company if we were to hire you?
So first of all, I really need to understand what it is that you want for your business, because I could spin my wheels and I could be pulling rabbits out of the hat and I could make, more explosions happen than an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. But at the end of the day, if it's not what you want, then I'm just wasting a lot of effort. So it's really, first of all, to understand where you want to take your business. Do you want your business to grow? Do you want your business to have an outstanding brand? Do you want people coming to work and really being happy and that they feel like they're involved and they feel that they're being appreciated and they're growing. And at the same time, being that destination, that dream destination for candidates out there who are in your field, wanting to work for you, as opposed to maybe some of the bigger names that have been around for over 10 years. I can do that.
Wow. Okay. Again, another amazing answer. Okay, so done the physical interview, you've done the conversation and everything. What is the best way to like end an interview? I mean, is there a particular way to go out, in terms of to make it memorable, I'm assuming?
Well, as I said, I think it's really important to understand if the interviewers have not asked you certain questions that you feel that there is an element of your experience that you still bring to the table that they haven't discovered yet, then I always feel, this has been a really fantastic opportunity to have this conversation. I'm really liking what I hear, and I really can see a lot of synergy between what it is that I can do and what your company is looking to do with this role. I do feel that when I was at yada, 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 and yada, 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 I did similar things, such as, whatever it is that you feel like they didn't touch on. So again, you're offering up some additional information that may also help close the deal. The other thing too is that you can ask, so after today, what are sort of the next steps in regard to your process, and when are you looking to actually hire someone?
Okay, is that good to be the last thing to say, or all that other stuff first, or does it matter?
Well, I think the other thing first, you want to sell stuff before asking, what's the next step. I mean, you're looking at it as, hey, I'm going to show you my wares. If you haven't looked at under, box number 3, and I think it's really worthwhile and an advantage for you, I'm going to share that as well. And then at the end, well, what are the next steps? When should I be hearing from someone? When are you looking to hire someone? Because I've also been in the situation where I may already have 3 companies, in last steps on an interview, and I already may be like, this is Thursday and I'm expecting 2 offers tomorrow. So if you're going to tell me, well, we're in early stages and we're still interviewing, more candidates, and we'll probably make a decision within a month and a half or 2 months. And some companies are like, whoa, we have 13 different steps, which is way too many steps to have any candidate go through. That you're being fair with them in terms of, I may not be around in a month and a half. And, fair point also to them is say, look, I'm not looking to take the first offer that comes my direction. I'm looking for the next company that I can really consider being a home for maybe the rest of my career.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
So,
okay, last part of this whole section here is called job acceptance. You've done the screening, the interviewing, everything. The sweat's not dripping. They want you. They're signing you on. So when you get that offer, the job offer, and the acceptance part, is it always clear to make sure, obviously, and I need to hear this, that the amount that you agreed upon is what is actually going to be paid, whether it's hourly, annually, or whatever? I mean, is that something that you should reconfirm before you get it in writing? How do you do that?
Well, they may say we're looking to put forward an offer, and you may only get it in an email in the offer letter. That does not mean that you go, oh, they kind of like are giving me less money than I was expecting, but I should still take it. I don't think so. I think that, again, if you're looking at it and say, well, this is really going to mean that if I take this job, I'm going to be, not exactly in a comfortable place and have to figure out how am I going to look at my other costs and maybe cut costs down. I think it's only fair to say, well, I appreciate the offer and I really thank you for, considering me for this. And I'm still very interested, but in terms of my own finances, I need to be at least $5,000 more.
Okay, so it's okay to do that back in writing, in an email?
Well, I think it's better to actually have a phone conversation with someone, to actually speak with them, because it's more personal. I think that with all this technology, we lose a sense of humanness. And when you're able to have a conversation with someone, it makes it more human, as opposed to, nope, I want $5,000 more. Well, see you later. We got someone else that we can take for the role. It
And
doesn't mean that they got the right person, but
right. Should you take into account like benefits? Should that be in the offer letter?
Absolutely. Because again, if you're taking benefits and they've got really terrible insurance, and it's like, well, like some companies, they don't even offer insurance, which boggles my mind. But at the same time, it's like, okay, it's 100% for you, the employee, and what is it, 50% for dependents? Okay, and is it Blue Cross or is it from some other company I don't know of? And what exactly does that company, do?
Okay.
So
Do you find that information out prior to getting the agreement, or once you get the offer? Is that when you start digging into that?
For me, I'll ask those questions because I may look at it and say, look, quite frankly, if I was doing insurance on my own and with my costs, I'm looking at probably $24,000. You're only offering 50%. So that means that $12,000 are coming off of what I'm already making in order to pay for my insurance.
Right.
So, I do believe
PPOs versus HMOs, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So the thing is that, you may be like, hey, I got the money I wanted, but the insurance really is terrible. And now that salary that I'm making does not look as enticing, because now I'm actually having to live off far less than I was at the last company who had really great benefits.
Right. Okay. How do you feel about contract work, signing contracts for a period of time as a contract hire?
I've done contract work for Hewlett Packard and LinkedIn. The thing is that most of the time they don't offer insurance right off, or they'll use a third party to do the insurance, and usually that's pretty expensive. So if they're paying you hourly, you need to consider that
the cost of benefit.
What's going to be the additional costs that you're going to incur taking this job, and that can you buffer that with the hourly rate?
Is there anything you should look for or be warned against in terms of signing a contract, or is it just they're all pretty generic?
Well, yeah, because let's say, for example, let's say they do include insurance, but it kicks in 3 months after you've started. Well, what are you going to do between the time that you say no to your last company and the 3 months before the insurance kicks in? Are you going to buy temporary insurance? That's going to be a cost to you. Because what are you going to do? Go without insurance? I know some people do, but again, that's a personal choice. I wouldn't do it. So
it all boils down to money if you can afford it.
And read your contract and what's the expectations, hour wise.
What I'm saying is that in that regard, you've got to have the money to pay for the insurance. This is not like, Australia and Canada where, you don't have to worry about if you can afford, penicillin shot, let alone, checkup.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the other thing too is, how do you feel about NDAs?
So I understand NDAs.
Non-disclosure agreements, they're usually for basically keep your mouth shut and everything you do is theirs kind of situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're providing them a service and then when you leave, you're not allowed to pinch employees from their company, I understand that. An NDA is an NDA, but you've got to read it. You've got to read everything in the contract. You just don't take the contract and say, hey, I got the money I wanted and the benefits look good. No, you read it, you do your investigation, because then if anything does go sideways, you would have kind of known about it if you had read your contract.
Okay.
If something does go sideways and it's because you didn't read the contract, then it's kind of on you.
Right. And you should always make clear who your direct report is and the process. Who
am I reporting to? You know what? Not just who your direct report is, but again, going back to how is this role going to be measured in terms of success? What are the expectations? I've come across so many managers that they've hired you and they don't even know what it is that they really need you to do. And for me, in my role, I've actually put together not just a plan of action as to here's the things that I see that you need because you don't have it right now, but I'm also going to set a timetable, because in this way too, if you say, oh, you haven't done this, say, yeah, but you signed on it. This is an agreement that we have that I'm supposed to deliver this in 5 months, because there's a few steps before that, before this is actually going to be able to be delivered. So, because, I've had the boss who, was looking to fire people, argued with their spouse over the weekend, came in on Mondays looking to chop off a couple of heads. Dale, come to my office. And I came in. And what did I come? This one individual, he was upset that, we had let go of a couple of people, but then we had also hired 13 people. And he had no idea about these 13 people. Well, I collected all the documents of the new hires, and I also came in with my first process that I ever wrote, which was, this is the document in regard to basically recruitment and hiring request. So if it wasn't signed by him or the other owner of the business or the GM, there was no recruitment. So I came in, I showed him, this policy. He says, yes, that's this. I said, absolutely. I said, okay, let's go to the first candidate. Open it up. What do you see? I see the document. You see who signed it? Me. Right, you signed it. This individual, Oh yeah, he was a good person. No, I really like him. We should hire him. I went through 7 of those people that I had been involved with. I'd also been overseas for 2 weeks. And in the course of those 2 weeks, a couple of managers decided to hire 6 people. Before I went into the meeting, I called them up and I said, I'm going to his office. You have 30 seconds to tell me why we absolutely had to hire this individual and what is the impact that they're either going to make being in the job or the impact to us in a negative way if we don't hire them. Because otherwise he's going to call you into the office. So they gave me the information. And so when I went in, I opened up the folder and I said, what do you see? He says, well, I don't see the thing. Absolutely. They didn't sign it. I wasn't involved. But this is why this person was hired. And if we don't hire them, this is what's going to happen. Oh, that's really smart. That's a good idea. I went through everyone. By the end of it, it was like, okay. I said, see, this is what's going on.
You're making the staff sound like to be mobsters, right?
Then he goes, I'm still not happy. And I walked away thinking, that's because you don't have an appointment with your shrink. So
how funny. Okay. This has been great. The other thing I want to touch base on is real quick is once you're hired and things go on, I've been told it's always a good thing to document everything in terms of especially situations or problems. Now, how do you feel about documentation? Even if it's just personally, you write yourself an email or, whatever.
You're talking about what are you talking about in the interview process or while you're in the job?
No, while you've been hired, and you might have issues with, clash with this or this wasn't through and it ends up coming back at you, that kind of thing. Is documentation a good thing to do?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you have a situation, like an employee has come to you with a problem, or if you're having an issue with someone, the date, the time, who was it with, what was communicated, even better if I have an email, I'm making a copy of that email and I'm creating a folder.
Right.
Because if this is something that escalates and no one does anything about it, it's a real issue. And
I always ran into the he say, she say, that kind of situation. And if I have an email or if I've documented, I found it's a lot easier to, defend either my position or the whatever the issue was.
But you also look more viable if you've actually, recorded all this information, what was said, what was the thing that was said
Right.
that you felt uncomfortable with. But, I also, when I go into an interview, I bring a notebook, I
Right.
bring something that I write with, because not only does it have my notes on who I'm talking to in the company and what are some of the things that I see as an advantage for them about me to help their business, but also I'm writing down notes as to what they're saying.
Wow.
So,
yeah, I bring a notebook every time too. And
yeah.
and I've had one person
a compendium. It's got leather on the outside. It looks very professional.
Oh, well, mine's a little one of the notepads, but I've had interviewers actually say to me, oh, you've been writing, and I'm like, yeah, I want to make notes, so, I have a reference. I don't know.
I have a better understanding of your business.
That's a better answer. That's a better answer. Sometimes you like whatever. I just make notes. That's all I do. Mr. McDaniel, Teja, this has been an amazing interview. This is something I think people are I am personally, for sure, going to go back and listen to, especially if I have an interview coming, a call coming, a physical interview, a Zoom interview. This is the kind of thing that I think people need to hear. 2021, a lot of things changed. You have to be aware of COVID. You have to be aware of what you want, who you are, what you're selling in terms of, improving the business that will be hiring you. You're an extreme wealth of information. Any closing comments you want to let everybody know or think about?
Well, I really enjoy helping people. That's really been my MO as a professional in this industry. I welcome anyone listening to this to please connect with me on LinkedIn. I've got a pretty solid network, and some of my connections have networks that are over 50,000 within them. And also at the same time, I mean, we're just scratching the surface here in regards to how to find a job. I've found, and at the sort of request of my wife, I'm currently writing a book, and hopefully it'll be done by the end of March or middle of April, something that's not very costly, not a long read, and hopefully definitely informative and helpful, because I just think that a lot of people could use that information.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, I think to me, like a Kindle version of it, so you're not spending a lot of money, and you can literally take it anywhere you go.
Yep. How to find a job. really straight to the point.
Oh boy, it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, I remember a time when I was getting lots of interviews, but for whatever reason, the market has changed, the economy has changed. The whole world has changed.
It goes in cycles, and you need to know where exactly you sit in the cycle and where things are at. And again, there are a lot of different strategies to utilize. We've talked about a few basic things that are really helpful. There's a lot more, and I think that as a candidate, the more educated and prepared and knowledgeable you are in regard to yourself and the arena that you're going into, the better off you're going to be in terms of not just landing a job, but a good job.
Yes. Good job, good money, and a home, like you said it earlier.
Yeah, a home.
Because you spend a third of your life at home, another third of your life at work, and another third sleeping. So that's your life.
Yes.
It's like, and hopefully you're having a good time doing it all. Anyway, thank you, Teja. Did I say thank you? Just making sure.
I think so.
Okay. Anyway, if you haven't yet, somewhere there's a button here that you subscribe, where you can actually subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to actually hit that little bell. That little bell drops a note when I drop something, and then you can watch whatever I'm doing. Just real quick, other shows I have besides the Geek Authority show: Mystery Chamber of Collectibles, Unboxing the Geek Authority, reviews, opinions, and commentary, and talk about all different kinds of shows with different people, family, and friends. The newest is Making Entertainment. That's where I go behind the scenes. You might want to check that out if you want to know how plays and productions are put together and the people behind the scenes of that. Other than that, Teja, thank you so much. Appreciate it again. And we will be talking to you soon. And thanks for watching, everybody. And let's say goodbye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.